After a super energetic session this morning, I'm not going to talk to you about how I climbed 7 mountains in a certain amount of days or walked across Antarctica, but equally as exciting, maybe not. I'm excited to talk to you about how you can energize your people to turn your education and turn your frontline employees into a revenue engine for your business. So, this is a friend that we have at Halight. We haven't given it a name yet, but its whole purpose is to talk about the elephant in the room. And when we talk to a lot of businesses and different companies that we work with, there is always this elephant that sits about how you can actually find an ROI in your training. So we've been using it as a symbol of being uncomfortable and take that moment. So today the goal is to ask some uncomfortable questions, have some uncomfortable moments, and kind of try to, with the theme of the event, reimagine everything that goes into frontline training. I will say, it was nice to get a quick shout out from Jason this morning, but our conversation about the numbers we're seeing in terms of actually driving sell-through in the field. So we know that when we basically want to train our employees, we're focusing on a few things. One is we want employee retention to increase. We want to decrease our churn rate, keep our employees there longer. And then the other one is, with that knowledge and with that confidence, we want to actually increase sell-through, whether that's with more products being sold or actually having an increased average selling price. When we surveyed the brands and organizations that we worked with, some of the common answers that we hear and interact with in terms of the most influential factor is, one is customer behavior. Actually, we know the numbers around, 40-month device lifetime. Some of it is the sales process. How are you interacting with people when they walk in the store? And then also, just the product offering. What are the actual things on your shelves that you're excited about? Products, services, packages. These are the things we hear most in common. But the one thing that people ignore a lot of the time is the one item that, number one, is your largest expense, and number two, interacts with each of these things on a daily basis. And that's your people. So every moment your customer walks into your store, interacts with your brand, your organization, they're interacting with your people, the people on the front lines who have the ability to move the needle for your business. As Jason mentioned this morning, retail is powered by the human connection and continues to be. And to use his statistics for this slide, 91% of the people who have a great customer experience will purchase again. So I'm going to take a quick moment to allow you to put yourselves in the shoes of your employees on the front lines. Customer walks in the store. They think back to their training, maybe they don't. You have the confidence to go greet the customer openly. Maybe you're stocking pegs or doing something else behind the counter, and you don't. And you choose to wait till the customer comes to you. And now I want you to think to yourself, do you feel armed and ready for that conversation? Do you have the ability, are you confident to walk up to that customer and actually engage with them on what they need, what they want, or the information that they are coming into the store with? The customer is more educated than they've ever been before. Sometimes they know more than the new hire that started a week ago. And in that moment, that employee has the ability to be a cost center to your business or a revenue driver. As a cost center, you have those moments where, hey, it's expensive. Our churn rate's super high. How much do we really want to invest in our employees? Because they may not be here at the end of 90 days. Our churn rate is 150%. All of those data points. Why do we want to continue to reinvest in people that leave us? But then there's the cost to your business of what if we don't? What's the cost of not creating the right customer experience? What's the cost of there not being attachment? There not being accessories added to the sale, not adding an extended service plan or warranty plan in those moments? what is the actual cost? And that's where it's looking at the cost to your bottom line and your expenses, or the cost to your top line. So let's reimagine that. Let's flip that to the other side of things. In that moment, the customer interacts with your salesperson, with your rep in store. They have the ability to make a choice for your business. If they're armed and ready, they can drive sell-through, they can drive average selling price, and revenue growth can happen for your business in that moment. Do they have the ability to connect the goals of the business to the brands they sell, to the buyers that are coming into the store? And do they have the ability to drive that store-over-store sell-through increase that people have the power to drive? So with that moment, I kind of want to talk about the disconnect between what's happening on the front lines and what's happening inside your corporate offices. On the left, we have the way the majority of training teams, learning and development teams like to talk about learning because the numbers are tangible. How many people are journeying through their onboarding process? How many doors are you keeping trained and up to date? What's your compliance training percentage? How many users do you have that log into your LMS every month or this year? How many new pieces of content have we put in front of our employees this year? How many completions do those content items have? And then you get to step into an executive meeting and your L&D team and your training team gets in there and they get asked questions like, hey, what was the sell-through on that process? Did we have recommendation rates on additional products? What were those recommendation rates? Are we seeing brands that are having market share increases? Are we increasing our market share versus some of our competitors, other dealers, other carriers? Are there new product activations in store, or are they just adding or refurbishing in those moments? And there's a huge disconnect in those places, and it's one that the employees that we talk to are seeing. So as I dive into our data and the things we see being impactful in store and actually driving revenue, I wanted to talk on a couple of moments. So at Halight, we train about 125,000 sales associates every month across the globe. Our platforms see new registrations, new signups every 3 minutes, new content completions every 6 seconds, new visits every 4 seconds, and new sales submitted every 24 seconds. So I talked to you about this to say, hey, this data that we're seeing in the field is happening every day, and we're seeing in every minute and every second, and we're seeing the impact it can have on your business. So when we take that 125,000 monthly active unique users and we break it down, we have 3 types of employees that are there every day. And I gave them some personas to try to get you exciting. So I imagine you have some of these in your store. So we have Give Me My Paycheck Penny. She's the one she's taking the compliance training, the onboarding, and she's on that floor every day to collect her paycheck. And we know everybody in your store is, but that's her focus. We have Training Checks Box Camilla. She is there, she's checking the box for you, and typically you can ask her to go above and beyond, and maybe sometimes curiosity takes over for her, but she's checking the box. And lastly, we have Continuous Learning Laura. This is your employee who loves to learn, loves to engage, asks great questions of their manager, of their coworkers, of longtime staff. When someone from corporate or a brand walks in the store to talk to them about products, they're fully engaged. And there's those 3 individuals that are really going to drive you to close the gap between that disconnect. So, as I mentioned earlier, the disconnect in terms of what our training teams want to track and want to talk about because they're easy to report on. And then on the right side, you have all the numbers that leadership want and want to show. And in the middle, we have something we refer to as the current, but it's a 5-step process to energize your people. It's a 5-step process to make sure that the people you have working in your stores, the one that represents your brand on a daily basis, and the one that are responsible for creating a long-lasting customer experience to drive loyalty, sell-through, and all the rest of it, are aligned with the business so you can push forward and innovate. So, let's start with number 1, alignment. The most commonly missed You've all had that feeling, I'm sure, before, where you walk into a meeting with a staff member, you walk into a store, and you think in your head, does that person even know what we're focused on? Does that person even know what the customer cares about? The purpose of this is becoming the expert on the 3 Bs, and I'll continue to reference the 3 Bs today. The business, the brand, which are your brand or the brands that are on your shelves and on your pegs and in your store, and the buyer, the customer. What is the goal of the business this year? You walk into a store sometimes, you have, buy 3 accessories, get the 4th free. Is that a goal of the business? Is it long-term contracts? Is it moving devices? What are the goals of those business, short and long-term? How are they having success evaluated for the business and themselves? And what does the customer actually want? What are they focused on? Like I said, they're coming in more educated than before, and they seem to have an idea of what they want. So how can you take that idea of what they want and mold it to what the business needs in that moment? The second part of alignment is the employee part. We talked about the employees being the most important part of your business, the most impactful part of your business. Finding the balance and the sweet spot between what your employees need and what the business wants, and what your people want, is going to bring you to a place where people feel empowered and ready to drive towards the business goals. So asking questions and listening to them, bringing those recommendations to them. One of the biggest feedbacks we're receiving from employees in the field is, I'm not sure my business, my organization, the retailer carrier I work with actually care if I get better at my job. And these are interviews our product team does, interviews our strategy team does to find out what direction we should start taking with our product and our services. It's that I'm not sure if upskilling is on the top of their priority list. And it's a shame because obviously the people are the most powerful. This is the fun part of alignment, those common misses. And our nameless elephant is back to talk about them. So, it's easy to forget one of the 3 Bs. We see a lot of trainer-trainee relationships. So in that case, we have those situations where I, as the business, want to train on something. The trainer wants to learn about what the business is saying. The products that are on your shelves are actually a superpower to amplify that. So yeah, I want to create a great experience. I want to learn how to approach the customer. I want to be able to ask them questions about who they are, what they do, what their lifestyle is like, so I can submit the right products. If you don't know what products fit into those categories, there's going to be a gap in the sale. If you don't understand that someone has an Apple ecosystem and you recommend them a Samsung phone, there's going to be gaps, right? So understanding the brands that you sell. Number 2, accepting details on the surface. So we all know the saying that if you look deep and far enough down Google, you can find what you're looking for. Similarly, that's a big miss that we find with teams. They don't accept the data they see. They pull reports, they analyze data, and they're constantly looking for the situations that they can bring to their leadership that make sense. So you got to look for the truth, and you got to trust not just what you want, but what's there, and you got to respect the data and be open to it. And then lastly, which is not just a learning gap, but just a gap for business in general. If you're going to ask your people's opinion and try to align with them, not listening to them and not making the changes or some of the changes they request can bring huge gaps in the business. All right, so that's alignment. Kind of leads us into the next part, which is the fuel. The fuel in our process and energizing your people is about the right information at the right time. In the world we live in, where content is constantly flying on our phones, at our fingertips, in our face, being able to give your team members the right information at the right time is going to bring confidence, and it's going to leave them energetic, to not bastardize that word today. But confident people sell more, and the fuel is all about making sure the information about your business, about the brands, and about the buyer are at their fingertips when they need it, whether that's prior to the sale, when someone comes in, or after the sale. A couple of common misses that we see in the fuel component. right now, number one, a content graveyard. So more is not better. Constantly evaluating it, is your content relevant? Is it valuable? And does it align with the business? And making sure the things that aren't there. Number two is completions versus consistency. Culture and behavior is developed through loops. How do we keep people interacting? How do we keep people engaging and find consistency in their business to make sure they keep coming back? What are your goals in terms of how often are they trained? And how active are they? And what sort of action are they taking? And then lastly is bland and basic. It is intimidating in the world we live in to think about how personalized our lives have become. Our social media feeds, what we browse, what ChatGPT and Copilot and all the other LLMs give us. But that's becoming the expectation. So delivering training that is a paintbrush of broad and not personalized to roles, not personalized to the demographic of the employee, and those items are going to leave people disinterested and gapping. Ignite and empower. This is the exciting part of it all. I can throw words around like gamified learning and gamification, and those are all popular terms, but when they really become impactful is when they have an outcome they want to achieve or a behavior that they want to drive. So in the case of igniting and empowering, the goal is to understand the journey of the learner, of the employee, or the needs of the learner, of the employee, and figuring out how can we give them opportunity in some sort of incentivized way to access learning, understand why, deliver it to them when they need it. We're seeing a lot more conversations around, I wish I could scan a product on the shelf and see the brand's version of that product right there and use it as a sales tool with the customer. There was a story with a European customer of ours that talked about the fact that they actually were doing a store visit and they watched a rep in that store actually ask ChatGPT a question and then show the customer the answer to the question. Obviously information accessible, but is that the right information at the right time? Who knows? Depends on what's going on there. So making sure you understand the journey you want your people to go on and the path they're on, and making sure you're meeting the needs of their role. The second part of Ignite and Empower, and this is where all the excitement happens, is what we refer to as our RAMP framework. So rewards, achievements, missions, and progression. How are you making the adaptation of new learning in your business exciting? What's the reward and the incentive for the employee to engage and take that training? Is there a journey that they're going down, and what is the achievement along the way? Going back to our 3 personas, telling somebody that they're going on a journey to learn something is not going to excite Camila, who's just trying to check the box. It's not going to create Penny to have proactiveness in her role. There has to be some sort of gratification for them that resonates with them. And lastly, igniting and empowering employees is about confidence. Someone feels empowered, someone feels attached, they're going to be able to walk up to that customer when they walk in the store, ask them questions like, what other products do you have in your home? What phone do you have now? What's your current plan look like? Or maybe what's their family size? Different things that related to their lifestyle and to bring value back to them in that moment, to leave them excited about making that purchase in store, and as a result, driving revenue. These are the ones that really is where learning and training programs live and die. So, number one, incentives for incentive's sake. There is a undisputable amount of evidence that says if you incentivize something, there will be a reaction, a positive reaction to it. You reward a sale, spiff a sale, that's great, it'll go up. The other side of that is there's a lot of studies in gamification and rewarding that state that the problem with incentives is that if you remove the incentive, there is somewhere between a 19 and 27% drop off in performance. So we see a lot of companies we talk to, brands especially, come to us and say, okay, we're gonna incentivize the sale of this product, we're gonna track it, we're gonna run a contest, they're gonna get points and product for every sale they make, and then we're gonna have a big sweepstake at the end, we're gonna send somebody to the final four, they're gonna go to, and all this good stuff, and it says great. And then the contest is gone, and the next month, the person who performed 111 sales that month of that accessory brand's product come back and they don't sell anything. They don't have any logged sales the next month. And then we come to find out that that person comes back the next month when there's a new promotion around a new drive time and they start selling again. And we have seen the bad stuff where people just stockpile codes of them selling stuff until they can log it. But when you have automated integration, you see that people are just not, they say, you know what, I'll start to emphasize that brand when the sales comes back, because why would I do it now? So incentives for incentive's sake is one of the things we see crush momentum, and understanding what the actual foundation and alignment is what can push that. Hot and cold empowerment. So is it consistent, and does it trickle down to the buyer? So seemingly, if someone's excited to take your learning, is energized to engage with the customer, can they pass that energy down? We saw the loyalty stat this morning of somebody coming back when they are excited about the customer experience. We want to make sure that that energy and that empowerment trickles down to the buyer. And lastly, all earning, no action, which I dove into a little bit, is you have to understand what the foundation is. And we have a lot of partners of us that incentivize learning without actually evaluating the behavior change. And they go back into their office and say, hey, look, we ran these contests, we've got these completions, and look how engaged our people are, but it doesn't show up on anywhere meaningful to the business. All right, and the last part of the process before we kind of close things for us is amplify. This is when we want to take our programs, we've just ran everything, we're feeling good, we talk to our employees. For once, they've talked about their onboarding training and they're excited about what they went through and they feel like they can take it out onto the road. You've created energy, so now what? So this focuses around consistent growth and progress, making sure you're asking questions, getting feedback, and taking that feedback into account. The first time through this process, you crush your goals. That's great. But is 11% growth good? Yeah, I think so. But why not more? And being able to push the envelope because things are changing constantly. Can we move the needle more and more? And can we push the envelope every time we go through this process? So how do we amplify? And then lastly, confidence builds energy. And energy on the sales floor increases sales. The common misses. I would say the biggest trend that we're all dealing with in our world, obviously retail, we talk about the pressure that retail feels, the doom and gloom sometimes when you think about retail sales and the way the buyer journey is trending. One of the biggest epidemics I think we're seeing in businesses, the fear of screwing up. And as a result, people are just okay with good, and they're not trying to be great. And some of that is obviously business empowerment, other things, but there's always ways to, hey, we did good, how can we be great? We were great, how can we be industry leading? If it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. If you hear a red flag in the store, you see a bad customer interaction in the store happening over and over again, it probably is a problem somewhere in the foundation. Don't ignore red flags. And then lastly, being comfortable. All the growth happens when you're uncomfortable. I didn't need to steal Colin's slide about the uncomfortable zone between 4 and 6, but when you're comfortable, it's easy to stay the same, and then we get complacent, and then we're a year into it, and we're wondering why things didn't have an impact. To summarize everything that we just talked about and kind of the journey of Penny, Camila, and Laura, our goal is to understand the alignment and the goals of the organization, make sure they're clear, and the people in the organization feel good about them. We want to make sure our content that you're putting out in the field is the right information at the right time. It's purposeful. We want to make sure we're incentivizing for the good work the people who are selling in our stores and expanding loyalty and the customer experience are doing, and make sure they feel empowered when they're showing up to do that action that benefits our business every day. We want them to be confident. And we want that confidence to flow down into the customer. We've definitely all had the buying experience where you leave and you're like, what did I just purchase? Why did I purchase that? Did I really need to attach the warranty? Did I really need the third USB-C cable and charging block? All of those things. You want to make sure they're confident with that sale. And that comes in down the last piece to the energy and the experience of the people selling and the people buying. And that energy and experience is what keeps retail buzzing, keeps it going, and is the reason why, even with convenience and accessibility and all of that, you have the ability to still have 80% of purchases happening in store and interacting. So, what does that process of energizing actually look like for Penny, Camila, and Laura? Penny is always going to be there for her paycheck, but we can hope that the energy makes her positive in her role and proactive when customers come into the store. Camila is going to feel consistent. She's going to want to be connected to the business. So her checking the box isn't about the training she's taking. Her checking the box is about the behavior and the outcome that we wanted to drive. We want to sell more product and create a positive, great customer experience. And Laura is going to be that employee that goes from, which there's so many stories about this in talking to our customers, of people who are in the store and then progress to the store manager and then the general manager and then the DM and then progress into corporate and so on and so forth. And that is what energizing her is going to bring to your business. So before we kind of hop in case somebody has some questions, I want to talk about a few questions that we really look for and go after. These are great, and I can share the slides with anybody who can come by our booth to talk afterwards. But do your L&D actions and motions in your business actually reflect the goals of your business? Do your content, your incentives, your actions actually energize your people? And the best way to find that out, secret shops, have questions, actions that are already happening. Do your people feel part of the process? The data shows that when people feel part of the process, they're going to stay part of that process longer. Are we, the people in the store, actually the expert on the business that we run and operate? The brands we sell, and the buyers who shop with us. Are we able to, the 18-year-old that maybe works in your store, we always use the adage about it's really hard to have a 17-year-old who lives at home sell a washer to the mom that walks in because there's a high percentage they never done their laundry in their life. But does that person selling actually understand the difficulties of a 12-year-old with a cell phone, or a 15-year-old with a cell phone, or access, or data levels and data rates? Are you actually excited to bring products and services to the customers who are walking in your store? And then lastly, which is the most difficult because change is hard, and this morning there was a lot of change about the storefront of the future, but do you actually have the tech, the tools, the expertise, the analysis to get the results you want? It's easy to set a goal of wanting to drive 20, 25, 30% sell-through in your business, but do you have the ability to do so? Or how is the scalability and what does that actually look like? So I'll throw this slide up, and then if anybody wants to ask questions, feel free. We can talk about things. We're here the rest of the week, the Halight team is. But what's the result? We talked about the 20%, 21%. We're seeing up to 25% approximately on the scenario. It averages out to around 23. But these are the other two numbers that are really, really important to us. So when we're running this program full out, we're seeing about an 80% increase in employee engagement. And what does that mean? Employee engagement is an extremely bland topic. The first is, it means people are coming in and interacting with your learning on a month-over-month basis. They're actually finding consistency in a learning culture and a training culture. And then the second point, which I think is the most powerful one that we have, and data point we have, is that people who are trained and energized are selling twice as much as their peers. Of the products, the brands, the services, they are more eager and they are pushing 200% with their peers. So with that, and I'll kind of open it up for questions and choose a light screen so we can see people. Thank you all. I appreciate you coming and talking about energizing your people. Any questions or?
Just for statistics, what would you say your average training engagement is per week or so?
So we see about a 50% monthly active user rate across our platform in terms of active users. So active users for us is somebody who's logged in and interacted with training in the past 90 days. So month over month, it's about 50%. If you stretch that out to a year, and say active users are people who've logged in the past year, the number is about 25%. But obviously that incorporates churn and all those things.
But what amount of time spent per week do you guys find optimal?
We have the average visit length for us is about 7 minutes. So it's quick. If you stretch that out to the month, our core users, that core 20% are logging in about once a week. So you stretch that out, we're talking about 25, 30 minutes approximate over the course of a month. Awesome. Thank you all. Appreciate the time.